Hey, how everybody doing today? I just want to go ahead. Yesterday I was trying to put on a video, but they kept on trying to jerk me or something with my webcam connection. But anyway, like I was saying yesterday about the 14th Amendment, it was never ratified, and I think when I left off, I was saying each person is subject to United States and the jurisdiction thereof. Now, subject to, that means you're liable, subordinate, subservient, inferior, obedient to, governed, or affected by, provided, answerable for. So that's when you subject to. And under the 14th Amendment, each person is subject to United States or the jurisdiction thereof. So uh, that's against the law, folks. That goes against uh, a lot of stuff. So let's not just keep on just saying that just because it's in law that it's been ratified. So a lot of this stuff never been ratified, and, it's just a whole bunch of crap. So again, the 14th Amendment states that each person is subject to the United States or the jurisdiction thereof. He said, I'm not shooting this video outside. There's a lot of bugs out here. Now again, when you subject to, according to Black's Law Dictionary, you're liable to government, you're subordinate to government, you're subservient to government, you're inferior to government, you're obedient to government, you govern or affected by government, and you provided for government, and you're answerable for government. And that's when you subject to. According to the 14th Amendment, each person is subject to this. So now let's get to free. Now if we look at free in the Black's Law Dictionary, free is not subject to legal constraint or any other unconstrainable power. Having power to follow the dictate of his own wills, not subject to the dominion of another, not compelled to involuntary servitude, used in this sense as opposed to slave. That's what free means in Black's Law Dictionary. Not subject to, folks. That's free. Even if freedom is like you have laws and stuff, you're still not subject to something. So come on, this goes against all our constitutions. So that's why I'm saying the 14th Amendment put us under a different type of America. It made you a U.S. citizen. That's not, as U.S. citizen is incorporated. So again, if we was on the true American, the Constitution, which really want for black people, again, as I state that again, you know, but we still here in America. We born Americans, and so we got to live under the Constitution because that's what the, you know, founding fathers, they even came up with the idea for that for. So let's not just get so carried away with, all these words and stuff. So again, each person under the 14th Amendment, after they freed slavery, after the 13th Amendment abolished slavery, 14th Amendment came in, said each person, and that is black and white, or anybody who born naturalized of America. And it also says, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall, oh, hold on, assault the power or privilege immunities of the citizen. So no, your state don't have nothing to do with the government. They basically saying your state can't make no law to override the government. Which in the government we made only supposed to be 10 square miles in Washington D.C. That's they tell you that. So they only supposed to govern 10 square miles in D.C., Washington D.C. That's what the government is. Only D.C. That's it. Each state supposed to have its own sovereignty. So we not U.S. citizen people. We Americans. We're not even citizens. We just Americans. American people. If you want to just, yeah, that's what we are. So again, let's go say it one more time. 14th Amendment makes each person subject to the government. Now, if you're subject to something, you're liable, subordinate, subservient, inferior, blah, blah, blah. I just went over that. When you're free, you're not subject to something. So let's just get that out of the way, because I got cut off yesterday when I made the video. Talking about the 14th Amendment, and somehow, like I say, the internet, it kept on messing up on me and stuff. But maybe it'll mess up again today. But that was that from yesterday. I just want to get that out of there because I know it ended. I watched the video. It just said it ended when you subject to. So I'm not. If you subject to something, that means you voluntarily. There's voluntary servitude, and that's what I want to get into with this paper I got from my good friend. Let's see. We can't really see it, but Social Security is voluntary servitude. Do we still want to volunteer? I got this from my friend like some years ago in Philly, and I'm just gonna go ahead and read this a little bit of this stuff. I was surprised I still had it. I thought I had lost this. But let's just go with some of this stuff. Like I say, I got this from somebody who's from Philly. They live in Philly, and I'm just gonna read it word for word, like what it is. The title is called "Social Security is Voluntary Servitude. Do we still want to volunteer?" And it states all about like when I was a boy growing up in the streets of Philly, the last thing on my mind was the need for a Social Security number. If you are like me, the number was received before the age of 16, so we could get a job. Our parents sometimes had to sign with us since we were underage for contracting. Today, most people born in this so-called Great Republic are persuaded that they have to have that magic number at birth. Which, of course, you don't have to have it because, like I say, under the 14th Amendment, by you signing your life away, you guaranteeing under contract that you are subject to that jurisdiction. But we'll get into that later because I believe this paper pretty much sums it up a little bit for people. And also, I can email this to anybody who want to get it because I can make copies of it or whatever. But now, were any of us informed that by signing that form, we were giving up our status as free American, protected under the so-called Constitution of the so-called United States of America? Did they tell us that our other new citizenship status was as a United States citizen, as if we were born or naturalized in Washington, D.C.? Now again, if we understand that United States was incorporated for a business, and that business was to dwell from Washington, D.C., then that's basically what they're saying. You're naturalized of D.C. No, I'm not. I'm not from D.C. I'm from Virginia. I was born in Virginia. So all my rights should be here in Virginia, not with some government telling me to get some card or something. So were we informed that we will receive instead privileges that look like rights, and that for the rest of our lives we will be beholden to the federal government for everything, including the right to live? Did they tell us that by voluntarily signing that Social Security contract that we were given permission to the beautiful bureaucrats to have dominion over us through thousands of pages of federal rules and regulations? Did they tell us that we were voluntarily enslaving ourselves again? No, they didn't. Most likely they told you nothing of the sort. Probably the helpful smiling counterperson gave us a few pamphlets telling us all the wonderful benefits that might be paid to us if we qualify for payments at retirement or if we were incapacitated somehow. Here's what we also get when we voluntarily apply for that Social Security number. The privilege for all the governments to tax us, the privilege to be drafted in their army, the privilege of having our possessions seized by them, the privilege of having our privacy invaded, the privilege of having to carry this identification, the privilege of having and owning phony debts created by politicians in amounts that stagger the imagination, the privilege of having to get a so-called license for everything we want to do in business, a privilege for being experimented on by government licensed physicians, the privilege of feeling fear of this government every day of our lives, the privilege of sending our hard-earned so-called money to others around the world to make them rich, the privilege to receive more privileges like those listed above. The list goes on and on. We are truly blessed with the number of privileges we receive when we get that magic number. Not. And it goes on to say, how did the federal government get such power to administer over us so intrusively through the issue of this simple number? The answer may surprise you. In 1913, a dastardly act took place in the great halls of Congress. A well-thought-out plan was put into action by power-hungry international money interests. They influenced the leadership of the United States President Woodrow Wilson and 4 key senators to pass and sign into law the Federal Reserve Act. This act allowed the formation of the Federal Reserve Bank, which is a private, non-governmental banking corporation. The Federal Reserve is not federal, and it has no reserves. It has only 8 owners, and 82% of the ownership is foreign through the United States of America. It is simply a bank with bounty hunters. Since the first day of business, the Fed was to stabilize money and finances in America. Since that time, the Fed has, God damn it, my light keep going out. I'm outside. My bad. Since that time, the Fed has artificially created depressions and recessions in the United States and is now over $8 trillion in debt domestically in the U.S. and $30 trillion worldwide. Why do you think guaranteed the federal notes worldwide? So-called Americans, of course. The Feds lend so-called money. The United States borrows money. The Feds want collateral for its loans as any bank does. The United States gives it. It assigns the labor of the people of the United States from cradle to grave as a guarantee. In the beginning of this banking relationship, the U.S. had enough gold and silver reserve to pay its loans. When those ran out, the U.S. used its land and other assets to guarantee payments. When that ran out, the U.S. used the future of its people. But who are its people? The answer is simple. Everyone with a social security number. Americans born in one of the 50 states are not U.S. citizens. Instead, they are free citizens of the state in which they were born, could be known as American nationals. They have no required legal obligation to get a number of any kind. They are not individually taxable as guaranteed by the Constitution. But when they contract with the federal government to get a social security number, this status becomes a U.S. citizen, a taxable entity. The politicians and bankers in the early 1900s knew this. They planned it. They needed to get as many people in the federal system as possible so the debts of the United States government could be guaranteed with the labor of its own people, voluntary indentured servants and slaves. Remember, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution outlaws slavery, but it allows voluntary servitude. So the plan was put into action. If we do the research, we can conclude that the Fed created the Great Depression in 1930 to scare we the people through a mechanism of poverty and hunger. We the people were offered a new deal. Social Security would take care of us from cradle to grave. All we had to do was ask for a Social Security number. Once we have our number, we give up our flesh and blood name and give a legal fiction control by that number. It's how the federal government recognizes property, by its serial number. In 1935, the Social Security Board was created. This board then created 10 Social Security Board districts, creating what is known as a federal area, the zip code. These federal areas overlay exactly the lands of the 50 states. In 1939, the federal government created the public salary tax of 1939. This is a municipal law of the District of Columbia. Municipal is city. It enables the municipality to tax all federal and state government employees and those who live and work in any federal area. Since the federal government knows that it cannot tax American citizens who live and work outside the federal jurisdiction as enumerated within the Constitution in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, or Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2, it had to get us into its jurisdiction. That process is described above. Finally, in 1940, the federal government passed what is called the Buck Act. This legislation allowed any department of federal government to create a federal area for imposition of the public salary tax of 1939. Later, the taxing law under Title 26, the Internal Revenue Code. Social Security had already created the federal areas. If we have Social Security number, we reside in these federal areas by their definition. Therefore, we are taxable, and we are under the jurisdiction of the District of Columbia and its leaders. These leaders are called the Congress of the United States. By getting this simple number, we stop being the owners of this country, and Congress stopped being our public servant. Instead, we became the servants of Congress. So the next time we wonder why congressional public servants do not listen to us, we know it's because they know we are not their boss anymore. The serial numbers prove it. The good news is that we can unvolunteer our election to have a Social Security number. The process can be frustrating because the federal government's so-called master does not easily let his slaves go. We have to follow a precise set of rules and lawful procedures that anyone can learn on their own. We can break our chains. We can be free again, mentally and financially. Many groups are available to assist in this endeavor. Seek them out. Spread the word to your family and friends if they will listen, so that we can all be free again. Learn, read, and take action. Think free, then we will be free. So, Just go over that stuff. The 14th Amendment, none of this stuff was ratified, man. They made you subject to law, and they made you subject to their rules, and we got to do away with this stuff, man. Peace out. True liberty.